Well, welcome everybody to our episode of the Nurture Nature Show. I am the Reverend Dr. Laura Kim Joyner.
And I'm the Reverend Dr. Meredith Gorman.
We are your co-hosts today for this show, which is on Facebook Live and Zoom. You could come in on Zoom. And since it's live, ask us questions, make comments. We
Pipe up!
we will promise to overlook and forget you. No. We'll do our best, and you can always contact us in between. And our Nurture Nature Show is all about multi-species. It's everything animal. And why do we care about other species? Because it helps us understand ourselves.
Because we are animals.
We're animals, and we want to be able to nurture nature. So we talk about
ours, theirs, everybody's.
the earth, and we're going to also do multi-species news for the past week and talk about conservation and pause. Oh, there's just so much going on in this 20 minutes. So what is it that we're talking about today?
Truth.
We
are going to talk about the truth.
And the reason why we're talking about truth, well, because we think it's going to help us nurture nature, but we did deception last week. And so we said, well, if animals help us learn about deception, what about true statements that actually do communicate what is actually true in another being and in animals?
Like signs that they give. They give signs.
Signaling.
Signals.
It's called signaling. And as a matter of fact, they call it honest signaling and deceptive. So whatever is true about me, I'm going to let someone else know, and it would hopefully benefit us both. So we're going to give lots of multi-species examples about that. And then we're going to come back to humans.
So the theory is that an animal will signal in some way that another species can pick up, and that behavior will continue through generations if it's beneficial to both the signaler and the receiver of that signal.
We assume that, and it may not be in every case. Some individuals might get it wrong and go, whoops, and we have
just before they get eaten.
Yes, we have a couple whoops examples. So why don't we start with Madagascar?
That's a great place to start. They got lemurs there.
That's right. And lemurs give out alarm calls.
Do they have penguins?
Madagascar, no.
No, they do not have. But they do have lemurs.
I think they do have penguins.
Oh, do they have penguins?
Yeah.
Do they like to move it?
Move it. So lemurs will give out alarm calls when there's a predator nearby, and other species will pick up on this.
The red-fronted lemur particularly has an alarm call that's picked up by sifacas.
And it's true information because there really are predators around. So they're doing honest signaling and saying, oh, there's a predator nearby. And the whole group.
They wouldn't alarm if there weren't something alarming.
Well, and we learned last week that other species do alarm calls when it's like crying wolf. There actually isn't a wolf.
So how does that benefit the one who's doing the call?
I'm going to guess that they get to forage with the species. They get more protection. Maybe other predators can go after them. They get information on where to forage and more safety, things like that.
It's kind of the same reason that they give the call to their own species.
Right.
It works the same way. The same benefits and reinforcement work for giving that call to other species.
Right. So there's an example. And then there's another kind of signaling. This is sort of like in a cooperative, and they're all prey items. They're all not items, but they're prey species. What about honest signaling between a predator and someone that the predator could eat? Is there anything that the one about to be eaten can say, wait, and be honest about it, going, I don't taste good? That would be like the monarch butterfly. That's honest signaling. Look at how pretty I am and don't eat me. But there are
right, and then the viceroy gives the same signal, but it's dishonest in the viceroy's case.
There we go. So, but let's talk about how honest gazelles are, shall we?
Well, are they not tasty, and so they give off signals that say they're not tasty?
No, they do this thing, and it's where they want to indicate to the cheetah that they're too fast and too strong.
I am a healthy gazelle. You could chase me, but it wouldn't be worth the effort it would take. You might even catch me, but I'm just more work than I'll be worth.
And so what they do is they show their prowess by doing something called stoating.
Is it stoating or stotting? Anyway, they do that hop. You may have seen it on the Animal Planet where they jump up with all 4 feet in the air. Boing, boing, boing. Oh, don't get me started.
Don't get you started. And the cheetah goes, you're very fit. I'm not going to chase you. So the cheetah doesn't waste energy chasing, and the gazelle doesn't get chased. And so that's honest signaling.
Now,
I
the
am
other gazelles think, oh man, what a jerk. The cheetah's going to chase me now because he's not chasing you.
fit. Well, it's always maybe iffy about how the signaling works out. Humans do honest signaling too, and along the lines of being hunters. So if you look at hunter-gathering communities, there's often a culture piece where the hunters, and it's usually the men, will come back and they have meat, which is very valued commodity, and they will just give it out to anyone in the community, and not even their relatives, maybe not even their family.
Okay, so the basic theory is this thing about reciprocal altruism. I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine. I'll give you meat this time. You'll give me some meat later on. It may be delayed, but there's a give and take. But here we're talking about cases where somebody brings back a mastodon and just offers it to the community, and there's a lot more largesse than he can possibly track whether anybody's going to pay him back. And it's not about whether people are going to pay him back. That's what we're talking about.
Right. And so why?
It goes beyond reciprocal altruism.
So what are they signaling when they give away the meat?
They're signaling that that they have an enormous mastodon, that they've really captured. They're signaling their status by showing that they have enough wealth to give away.
And that they're strong and that they're agile and that they will make good babies. And so they're a good companion.
And good allies.
Good allies. And so that's a form of humans doing honest signaling, which is a little hard to figure out. Why would you give away meat?
So he makes himself attractive to prospective mates, all kinds, and makes himself attractive for prospective allies, should he need allies among the guys.
Right. So, males in a lot of different kinds of animals will do this signaling. Birds, for example, will do all kinds of things. There are the dancing birds of paradise, where they
dancing birds of
paradise. Where they just dance and do all these great calls, and they clean up around, and they
is that the heavenly reward that you get if you live a good life? You get to go to see the dancing birds of paradise.
Yeah, you get the birds. You get so many birds of paradise. And so what are they signaling by all that fancy courtship and colors and dancing? Probably the same thing that the peacocks do that with their tail, and like humans do when they bring in meat. What are those birds of paradise and the peacocks signaling with that silly tail?
But why is it just the guys? Why is it the peahen doesn't have a big fancy tail? Doesn't she need to show that she's an attractive prospective mate?
Isn't that interesting? And I think that does work in some species, but the female needs to not have a big tail so she can use her resources for raising young. That's not a strategy for females.
Because the big tail would really just get in the way. It's so impractical.
It's so impractical. You use a lot of energy on tail. She needs to use that on egg laying.
So how come she can't figure out that it's also impractical when he's got the big tail?
Well, maybe it is impractical, and he's just signaling, listen, I can just be as exuberant as I want, and I still have enough energy left over to survive.
Yeah, except that he might not. He might have given all his energy into that tail and not have enough left for real survival skills.
All he needs is sperm at that point.
Well, that's what he needs, but she needs to know she's getting, I mean, just evolutionarily, she wants sperms of a peacock that's going to be really genuinely healthy, not just apparently healthy.
He has to be really healthy if he can survive and have a tail like that. As beautiful as that. He's very healthy. He's really able to manage and get resources.
Okay. Seems kind of impractical though.
To have a big tail, like you wouldn't want that.
Right. Well, he's really healthy, but he's wasted it all on that tail.
A lot of people think peacocks are wasteful, but we do not do judgments here. Well, what about the tail on swallows, barn swallows? You think those are exuberant tails?
Oh, I heard about those tails. Something about parasites, right?
Yeah, they have the males have forked, flowing tails, well, sort of flowing in the back, and the females, are straight edged. And so it's a signal of, look at my tail, and the longer the tail, the stronger you are, and it's a signal of fitness to the females. But are they really fit? It's the same question that you asked about the peacock. Are they really
So is that
more fit?
honest signaling or is that dishonest signaling?
That I'm
Which
really
kind of signaling is that?
Well, what they did is they did a study where they looked at the amount of external parasites on the male, and the males with the longer tails don't have as many parasites, which is a harm to them. It reduces their fitness if you have a lot of parasites.
Well, how do long tails keep parasites away?
It's linked to the genetics of being resistant to parasites. So you have the genetics that make you resistant to parasites, and you're able to put more energy into a longer tail.
Because the parasites aren't consuming that energy.
They're not consuming that. And the male, this is where it becomes really honest, they pass on their genes to their chicks, because then they measure the parasite load of the chicks in the nest, and chicks that come from nests with males with long tails have less parasites too. So it's truly, he's being as honest as he can be. I got a long tail. Your chicks with me won't have as many parasites.
And yet it can sometimes get a little iffy. If too much energy goes into the signal of strength and health and not enough energy into actual strength and health, then it could be mostly an honest signal, but it can start to bleed over into being a little iffy.
Yeah, it takes some discernment. Bird song is also like this. It's usually the males that are the very vocal. The females are often the drabber ones, and they're hiding and they're not being as vocal generally. And the males are bright, like the red, green, blackbird with their bright epaulets, saying and doing these wonderful songs and being creative, that like the bird's paradise. And hopefully it is honest. It is honest signaling, saying I am more fit. Look at my colors and look how smart I am developing my songs.
There's a Zen story about that.
Oh, so let's maybe shift into what the human realm on signaling a little bit more. What's the Zen story?
Well, it's an Anthony DeMello story. He says it's an old Zen story, but I can't find any other source for it. So as far as I can tell, Anthony DeMello made it up, but it's a great story anyway. The disciple was complaining that the master was hiding the full truth from him, and they were out walking in the woods, and the master says, "Do you hear that bird singing?" And the disciple says, "I hear the bird singing." And the master says, "Then you know I have hidden nothing from you." And the disciple simply says, "Yes."
So the bird showed to the disciple the truth that the master was never hiding. So what truth was the bird showing? Okay, so you're being Zen. Do you want to explain to people what the Brock means in a Zen story?
Sure, I could tell them what it means.
Oh, I'm afraid to ask.
Brock?
Yeah, there we go. So I'm not so Zen, so maybe I can give my sense of what I hear the truth of when a bird sings. And maybe that's what the Zen story is all about. But what do you hear when you hear a bird sing? What do they tell you? They tell me about the beauty of life, even though it's often paired with tragedy, but there's the beauty of the birds never dies. It's always there, and it's shouting out that you are part of this beauty and you're part of that bird, and we are interconnected, and there's no difference between bird and me when you hear a bird song.
So, in other words,
well, and a good friend of ours, Jim Austin, who is a neuroanatomist and a Zen leader, and he's written about this, where he says that when you hear bird song, it's often in the Zen tradition, you hear bird song and then you were enlightened. You hear a bell and then you were enlightened. But hearing bird song and also looking at birds sometimes, all of a sudden you get an integration of your neural networks, and you have this opening and this flow and the sense of interconnection. So bird song is a tool for realizing that interconnection and the peace of knowing that you belong and all life belongs. So that's what birds tell me. What do birds tell you?
Well, it's not just instrumental. You say tool, it makes it sound like it's just an instrumental thing. But
yeah.
It's the whole thing right there. Everything is right there. All of it revealed, all of it given, all of it received.
Well, that's our theme, the truth of what animals tell us. And it's all true.
The whole truth, constantly pouring out of their every movement and every sound.
So let's do news from the week, shall we?
News from the week.
Multi-species news. It was a good week. I didn't pick out some of the hard news. Some of the good news that we've had this week. What about those right whales? They're not wrong. They're right whales. What did we learn about right whales?
These are the right whales. They're not left. They're the right whales.
Yeah, and what did we learn about them this week?
They were pretty endangered, weren't they?
They still are. About 400 left. Yeah.
400 in the whole planet.
The whole planet. And they're on the eastern Atlantic seaboard. And so what they found out this week, it was a bumper crop of baby whales swimming with their mothers around Florida and South Carolina.
What was it, like 17 baby whales this year?
17.
That's a bumper crop.
Really, really good year. So that is such good news. And
haven't had that many since 2015, like 5-6 years since we had that.
It's really good. The whaling did them in, but then the ongoing boat accidents, speeding boats, seismic blasts, getting tangled in fishing gear. So, it's hard for them out there. And so 17 really, really means a lot. We also had good news this week about endangered animals. The condors are coming back to the Pacific Northwest.
Where were they?
They were going extinct.
Those are some really big birds.
They are. Remember when we saw them when we went to Utah?
Oh, that's where they went.
Yeah, they went to Bryce
Utah.
Canyon. That's right. They went to Zion. Yeah. So they've been releasing them in a reintroduction program in Southern California and then into Utah. That's where we saw them. And now they just got the government okay to begin a program to release them up near the Oregon border. In indigenous, working with the indigenous people, the Yurok up there. So that's just great news. Go condors.
Right. Gonna scare the heck out of those Oregon ducks.
There we go. Then fossil news. I know fossils been a long time ago, but we are learning more about them. And this time it's about trilobites.
Trilobites?
Trilobites.
Trilobites. You say potato, I say potato.
They lived a long time ago, 470 million years ago, really abundant. They were kind of predators and scavengers on the ocean floor. So they had a new technique of using CT scanning to look at the trilobites, and they weren't quite sure why the trilobites had such big thighs. There was something there.
Fat thighs.
There was appendages. There was growth. There was something.
Thunder thigh trilobites.
That's right. And something was going on there. And you know what? Because they could go down to the really small cellular level. You know what they found out what those organs are on their thighs?
I'm just scared to guess.
They're leg breathers. They're breathing oxygen.
Oh,
they're basically gills.
I get it. So the troglodytes are mouth breathers,
and the
trilobites are leg breathers.
Right. So it's just good news all around. Good news around. Giraffes. Study came out this week about female giraffes that the best thing that they can do to increase their fitness and survivability and flourishing, it's not food. It's not the size of their territory. It's their girlfriend. If you've got good girlfriends, you're doing well as a female giraffe. Yay, girls.
Do the friends have to be other giraffes?
Yes, that's what the study said.
Well, what about giraffes that have like gazelles for friends?
I don't know if they do. I've never.
Of course, that's why the gazelles are doing the stotting, so they can hop up and talk to their giraffe friends.
Yeah, they're way up there. Could be, multifactorial. Monombacterial.
And do the guy giraffes need to have friends?
I don't, maybe not. Maybe there's just kind of a competitive thing there, And then we got to wrap up this multi-species news before we go into our next section, comparing, genders, this cat and dog divide. They did a study and they found out that if someone mistreats a human companion and a dog sees that, the dog does not want to take food from the person who didn't do his human companion a service. But cats are going, yeah, if you didn't open up the can and help my human companion do that, but I'm going to take food from you anyway. So what was some of the local news was just going on about, the cats are, what did they say? They're socially inept.
They did. They're like Live Science had a report that said, cats are too socially inept to be loyal. It might not be that cats are disloyal. Rather, they may be too socially clueless to understand when someone's not being nice to their owners, according to the new study. And is that really what the new study showed?
No, the authors of the study said, some cats and some dogs are really, really cued into the humans, others aren't so much. And it may be that the cats didn't realize what was happening. They couldn't figure out, just because somebody wasn't helping you open a can, that you weren't being nice to your
Well,
owner. But the dogs,
Isn't that what socially clueless would incorporate? That
they,
would be a way to be socially clueless, is to not understand what's
but that
going on.
doesn't mean they're socially clueless on what's going on with humans, but they may be understanding a great deal of things and be quite socially adept in the way that they are.
They may understand quite a lot and then just not care.
We cannot talk about that.
Oh.
We're not, this is what this points out. And yet there are some things that it does also point out that cats are not dogs.
Cats are not dogs.
Cats are
but
not dogs.
Some of them are as socially apt as dogs are. So hashtag not all cats.
Not all cats. So our pause, our conservation news is, I just want to share with you all that a week ago, Foster Parrots, which is a parrot sanctuary in Rhode Island, had a devastating fire and lost 92 lives. I was up there a couple days ago as the chaplain in residence about the loss of these beings. And what does this have to do with conservation? Many of those birds are endangered birds, and they came out of the wild, or their parents came out of the wild. And so we're losing the parrots of our world. And then they end up in so many instances where people don't want them or can't take care of them. Or
92. They were parrots,
and they also lost
cockatiels.
And cockatoos and macaws, all kinds. And so our heart goes out to them, and the beauty of these birds being lost, but it's living in the dedication of these people to stay and rebuild and take care of these birds on the front line of justice. So thank you, Foster Parrots. And why don't we just take a moment to honor those birds and those people? Just take a pause. And with these words from what a Ben Zen Buddhist teacher told me just yesterday, it says that a broken human heart is the condition of the human heart. It is the human heart to be tragic and cracked open. And when the human heart is cracked open, everything gets in, and we are everything.
When it's all the way broken open,
then
everything comes in, everything is included.
Yeah, so even in a bird's death, the bird tells us the truth, that we are part of everything.
And nothing is hidden.
Nothing is hidden. So that's our show for this week. We'll be on next Thursday at 4 p.m. These are recorded, so you can find it on our website, oneearthconservation.org. Send us your comments and your questions in the meantime. And what are we talking about next week?
Altruism.
I would like to do altruism.
Okay.
I would like to do altruism and cooperation. What's going on there? Why is the lemur helping out the other species? What are we doing?
He likes to move it.
He likes to move it. So until next time, everybody, you are an animal.
So act like it.
You can't help it.
So help it.